So I don't have an introduction, so I'll just start off with the review. I'm reviewing a film called Samurai Reincarnation. This is from 1981, directed by Kinji Fukasaku. So this is the first non-Yakuza Kinji Fukasaku film that I am watching. Or actually, no, the second, because I've seen Battle Royale. But yeah, most of the other films that I've watched of Kinji Fukasaku are all like Yakuza movies. And somewhere around like the late 70s, he stopped making Yakuza movies and then moved on to doing other films. And this is sort of one of them. So the film is based on true events, or actually, like the premise sort of takes off from a true event, which is, I wrote this down. Okay, so there was something called as the Shimabara Rebellion. So this was back in like late 1600s. So the emperor of Japan, or the shogun, he did, like, it was a combination of two things. So he increased the taxes on the farmers, and at the same time he sort of really came down on the people who were converting to Christianity. And so that led to a farmer and a Christian sort of uprising, which was like very brutally put down by the shogun. He sent out like 125,000 soldiers against this army of about 40,000 farmers. And those farmers were led by a Christian samurai by the name of Shiro Amakusa. So eventually they were all sort of cornered in this one castle, and the battle lasted for almost, I think, about 2 or 3 months. And eventually they managed to get through, and the shogun's people killed about somewhere around 35 to 37,000 farmers and like Christians and the samurai who was there. And so that is where so all of that is true. Like the lead villain in this movie is Shiro Amakusa. So all of that stuff is real. So the movie starts off with the rebellion having ended. Like literally, the rebellion has just ended. The army is still there and it's sort of celebrating, and it's this horrifying scene of just like dead bodies everywhere. Actually, not dead bodies, like heads everywhere.
350年前、徳川幕府のキリスト教徒弾圧に端を発した島原の乱は、延々94日の死闘の後、戦いの幕を閉じた。
So there are like, 30,000 heads. So you have this massive set, which is just like heads everywhere. And in the middle of that, like the camera focuses in on a cross. You have the head of Shiro Amakusa.
45,000個の首を得たと称して、勝利の酒に酔ったという。
And so then all the soldiers are sitting over there, and there is like a stage play going on or something like that. And the great thing about Japanese movies is they don't really explain much when they don't have to. So there's just a lightning strike, and Shiro Amakusa's head sort of takes off. And attaches itself to one of the performers. And then there's another lightning strike and all the soldiers die. And he's come back to life. So, it's not really samurai reincarnation, it's more like samurai rebirth. Something like that. Anyway, so then he sort of, he goes off on this speech where, like, I disown God. And, like, when we were praying to you, you didn't come to help. So now, I call upon all the devils and the demons to come and help me. And so he gets like the power of resurrection.
神よ、全能にして万物の作り主たる神よ、見よ、 あなたのしもべたちの屍の山をなぜあなたは答えなかった
or something like this. It's very unclear what powers he has except for resurrection. So that's the one I can talk about. And then the rest of the movie is mostly him sort of collecting a band of people that he's going to use to get revenge against the shogun. So the good thing about the movie is really good art direction, right? And actually no, really good art direction. Like that's the good thing about the movie. Beyond that, the movie is sort of all over the place. So cast wise, right? Like because there's a pretty impressive cast. So you have Kenji Sawada who plays Shiro Amakusa. You have Sonny Chiba who plays a character called Jubei, and you have Akiko Kana who plays Hosokawa Gracie, and then you have Hiroyuki Sanada who plays Kirimaro Iga, or okay, I think that's the name. In the case of Hiroyuki Sanada, I did not recognize him.
ああ、約束だからな。ほら、逃がすなよ。
Right, because I have only seen movies of him when he's older. So this is like 1981. He's really young, no mustache, no beard. So most of the time you see him now, like he's in John Wick and he's in like Bullet Train. He's in what was that HBO show that was there? I'm forgetting the name. Shogun? It was called Shogun. Anyway, so like he's famous, but he's so young in this. When I started reading the cast list, I went like, oh, that's Hiroyuki Sanada. And Hiroyuki Sanada actually won an award. This film won 2 awards. Like it won an award for art direction and it won an award for best young actor. So which went to Hiroyuki Sanada. Okay, so the I forgot. God, I'm going to try and pronounce his name. So Tomisaburo Wakayama. God, okay. He plays Lord Tajima.
一人は宮本武蔵殿、一人は宝蔵院飲春殿。お二人とも千年5月、世を去ったと伝えられた方々です。
So why that? It's difficult to pronounce that name, but the reason why he's famous is because he was the lead actor in Lone Wolf and Cub series. So he's like, I know him from there. So the cast is pretty stacked. Like this is a good cast. The problem with the film is the pacing. Okay, so the movie starts off, Shiro comes back to life and then he gives up God and he gets like powers or whatever. And in the next 30 minutes, he just spends, or the movie spends like him sort of going from place to place and recruiting people. So he first finds this lady, Lady Gracie.
これは天草四郎時貞と申すもの。
何故にわらわをよ。
今一度この世に生まれ変わりたいとのお方様の悲願、果たしまいらせたく。
Who's committed suicide because her husband was a lord, but he was having like affairs, so she committed suicide because of that. And the way he brings people back to life is like, he kind of says like, if you have any regrets, I'll bring you back to life so you can sort of fulfill those wishes that you had. So he brings her back to life, and then he meets Miyamoto Musashi, who is also a historical character. He was like a very famous sportsman. So in this one, he's sort of taken like these historical figures and then just sort of done like a fantasy version of them. So in this one, Miyamoto Musashi is like very old and he's dying, but he always wanted to fight like 2 people. So the 2 people being Jubei and his father, which is Lord Tajima. And he's like, they are very good sword fighters, but I never got to fight them. And then as he's dying, like, Shiro shows up and he's like, I'll bring you back to life. And then there is like this other spear, this guy who's like really good with a spear, and he's just horny. So he's like, I never got to have sex while I was alive because I was just practicing the spear all the time. So now like he's come back to life. So his basic mission throughout the movie is just like raping any woman that he finds. So you're like, okay. And then you get Hiroyuki Sanada, who is like the last survivor of his clan. Like his clan gets attacked by a rival clan. So the problem is like none of this has anything to do with the main plot. Okay, and then it's also like these people have nothing to do with the main plot. It's like when you have a heist movie, and in a heist movie, it's very clear, right? Like why you are collecting the crew. So one of them is a safe cracker, and one of them will be a getaway driver, and one of them might be like a weapons expert or whatever. But like, okay, these people have specific jobs to do. In this one, except for Lady Gracie, who sort of goes on to like seduce the shogun and like distract him from whatever is happening in the empire so Shiro can go out and do what he wants to do, no one else has anything to do. They're just sort of there, right? Like, and like Hiroyuki Sanada's character has literally nothing to do. Like, he gets an arc where he suddenly like he sort of regains his conscience and he's like, I don't want to be evil, and stuff like that. But what does this have to do with the movie? No idea. So like the film is very start and stop. Like it keeps going off on tangents all the time, and like then you have Sonny Chiba who sort of like randomly shows up every now and again. Like when they go to meet Miyamoto Musashi for the first time to sort of recruit him, and then just Sonny Chiba shows up, like randomly shows up over there.
我はかく求め訴えたり
お頼み申すお頼み申す卒じながらご挨拶つかまつるこれは柳生十兵衛光義と申す者宮本武蔵殿に剣の道を一言ご教示賜りたくご案内をお願い申す
And the only other character that turns out to be useful is Lord Tajima, because Lord Tajima is the shogun's sort of swords master. So they managed to turn him into a demon or a devil. So like he is there to spread more chaos within the palace. So you have like two people who've infiltrated the palace. So the story itself is kind of interesting once it gets going, but it takes a really long time to get going, which is the problem. Like this is 2 hours. The first 30 minutes is just, you're just sort of like wondering like what is going on. And then even towards the end, where like he's managed to build up another rebellion and they're going to attack Edo and attack the shogun's castle, the film just goes off on another tangent, where like Miyamoto Musashi shows up and he, finds Jubei and he goes like, I challenge you to a duel. I'm like, dude, we're like attacking the castle right now.
十兵衛これより東へ一里半船島なる小島にてお主を待つ明朝辰野国船島だな来るか参ろう
Like, can we not do this? Like, okay, so then for like you get a 10-minute scene where they're on a beach fighting, and we're like, aren't we supposed to be at the castle, like burning down the castle? But no, we got to do this. And not that it's a great, like if it was a great fight scene, I would be like, yeah, okay, that was worth it. But it's an okay fight scene. So the great thing is the last 20-25 minutes, absolutely fantastic. And like once you come to that point and like Lady Gracie sort of going nuts and the shogun is trying to run away from her and the entire castle gets set on fire. And all of that stuff is great. Like the end fight is kind of insane because it's like Sonny Chiba versus Lord Tajima and Shiro in the middle of this castle that is on fire. So they've actually like, they have a set which is entirely on fire. And you have like the two of them in the middle of that, or like the three of them. So that stuff, fantastic. But you have to get through like an hour and a half of like randomness happening till you get to that point. And then the ending is just like, I don't want to spoil the ending, But this film doesn't have a sequel. So the ending doesn't make any sense. It just like it ends and you're just like really? Like this is how we are going to end this? But yeah. So now like overall, it's okay. It is just interesting to see a Kinji Fukasaku movie that's not a Yakuza movie because it's his shooting style is so different. Like his Yakuza movies have like a lot of energy to them. This one, or even like the camera work is like just all over the place. Like it just so kinetic and moves all the time. This one is very sort of traditional and like the camera is very static and the framing is nice, but it doesn't like move a lot. It's at times it almost feels like a stage play, in when it's on sets. So it's very very different to like what you see in his Yakuza movies. Because I actually saw his final Yakuza movie, which is called the Hokiruki Proxy War. I'll review that next because that's a really good movie. But yeah, like when you watch that and then you watch this, it's like complete. It's such a stark difference. Like it almost doesn't feel like it's directed by Kinji Fukasaku till you get to like the final 30 minutes where it sort of really picks up. But yeah, overall, it's okay. Like if you want to watch like a Japanese fantasy movie, it's not bad. But there's better stuff to watch than this.